தேங்க்ஸ். நான் கேட்க வேண்டிய 2 கேள்வி நீங்களே கேட்டுட்டீங்க. ஸோ தமிழ் ஓகே, அண்ட் யார் சர்வீசஸ் யார் ப்ராடக்ட்ஸ் அதுவும் கேட்டுட்டீங்க. சுப்பிரமணி சார், தேங்க்யூ இன்வைட் பண்ணதுக்கு. நான் வேறு இடத்துல பேசினதை பார்த்து நீங்கள் கண்டிப்பாக பேசணும்னு சொல்லி கூப்பிட்டது அவர் தான். கை காட்டுங்க சார். இந்த செஷன் நல்லா போகலன்னா யார்கிட்ட நீங்கள் அதுக்கப்புறம் பேசணுன்னு உங்களுக்கு தெரியும். அவர் தான் அது. அரக்கை அந்த இது போட்டிருக்காரு, நேரு ஜாக்கெட் போட்டிருக்காரு. ஆல்ரைட், ஸோ என்னோட டாபிக் இதுதான், MSMEs and startups going global. It's a continuation of what the previous panel talked about. I'm not going to go technical. I'm not going to tell you how to build a product or how to build a product for the global market. That's what they talked about. Before that, I'll tell you a bit of context. யாருக்காவது இவன் யார், ஊர் பேர் தெரியாதவன், இவன் எதுக்கு இங்கே ஸ்டேஜுக்கு வந்திருக்கான், இந்த மாதிரி உங்கள் மைண்டில் டவுட் வரலாம். So I'll just give a context as to why I'm here and why and what is it that I'm going to share. I currently run a company called Workhall. It's a product company. It's a no-code automation platform. And I started it for a very simple reason. There are many, many products, as Raji ma'am said. There's at least another 100, 200 products in this space. But I still think there's a lot of innovation that can be done and a world quality product. Just IT products have been sonnale, we keep saying Salesforce, Microsoft, Google solron. Adile India company product onnu varanum. Zoho is doing a bit of it. I wanted Workhall to be there as well. So that's the vision with which we started that company. And we are about 100 people. Chennai, Coimbatore is engineering center, not Madurai unfortunately. We'll open one here as well. My dear friend Rajiv is here. He even today talked about opening a center here in Madurai. But idukku munnadi I had a services company. And the company peru Uram. In fact, inga nariya colleges ku we recruit. We went to Kamaraj, Sedu, KLN and Tyagarajar as well. We hired from these colleges. Over 10 years la we grew to about 1,000 people. We had offices in Chennai, Tiruchi and Bangalore in India and in 7 other countries as well. And we sold the business for a good value in 2022 to a company called WNS. And then in 2024, I exited that company. Workhall is about 4 years old. So what I'm going to talk about is, ஒரு 10 வருஷத்தில் ஒரு சர்வீசஸ் கம்பெனி, அந்த உரம் அப்படின்றது தமிழ் வார்த்தை தான். அந்த எங்கள் கம்பெனியோட பிரின்சிபல் வாஸ் ஆல்சோ வெரி சிம்பிள். கம்பெனி மக்களுக்கு உரமாக இருக்கணும், மக்கள் கஸ்டமர்ஸ்க்கு உரமாக இருக்கணும். Both of us together should be the uram for the society in which we work. எந்த கண்ட்ரியாக இருந்தாலும் பரவாயில்ல, அந்த கண்ட்ரிக்கு நம்மளால் என்ன பண்ண முடியும், டாக்ஸஸ் பே பண்ணுறது, லோக்கல் ஹையர் பண்ணுறது, அங்கே என்ன பண்ண முடியும். ஸோ தட் இஸ் வாட் அவர் விஷன் வாஸ் இன் தட் கம்பெனி. வி வேர் ஆல்சோ அ கிரேட் பிளேஸ் டு ஒர்க். 6th in India in 2022. 50 ஆரம்பித்தோம், 2018 அப்ளை பண்ணோம், 50 ஆரம்பித்தோம், ஒரு வருஷம் we kept improving and we ended up in 6th the year we sold the company. So that's the context, guys, okay, in terms of what is my background and why I'm going to talk about this topic. And எது பண்ணாலும் எம்ஜிஆர் அந்த காலத்தில் சொன்ன மாதிரி ஏன் என்ற கேள்வி. ஸோ கோயிங் குளோபல் ஃபைன், பட் நம்ம குளோபலாக போனோமா, நமக்கு அது தேவையா? நாட் எவ்ரிபடி நீட்ஸ் டு டூ எவ்ரிதிங் தட் எவ்ரிபடி எல்ஸ் இஸ் டூயிங். We don't have to copy what others are doing. So the very first thing you need to do is you need to be clear on the why. ஏன் நீங்கள் குளோபலாக போகணுன்னு நினைக்கிறீங்க? ஏன்னா இதுக்கு முன்னாடி நம்ம பேசும்போது we talked about ICE architecture that you talked about. We talked about security, scalability. We talked about deploying and being ready to be deployed in multiple environments. Everything is fine. But what if you're building a product which is for financial services in India, which has TDS and GST? TDS and GST does not apply to other countries. You're building a product very specific to India. Then a lot of questions do not apply. Then you don't need to go global. India is your market, right? If you're building a product with healthcare, every country is different. The laws are different, the regulations are different, the policies are different, data privacy is different. You can't build a global product in that case. You build a platform, you build a Zoho Creator, you build a Workhall, right? So it depends on what is your market. If you are doing home automation systems and you're customizing China-based products, your market is limited to where that product is sold. Your market is not global. You need to first be clear on what is it that you're doing and why do you want to be global? That's the first question, okay? So that is what I did, and I'm again not advising, I don't like to do that. In one of the groups where I have the fortune of being associated with Mr. Rajiv, one of the rules we have is you should only share experience. So I'm going to share with each line that I have there, I'm going to share the நான் என்ன பண்ணேன், எங்களுக்கு ஏன் நாங்கள் குளோபலாக போனோம். என்னோட ப்ராடக்ட் உரம் ப்ரீவியஸ் கம்பெனி, அந்த சர்வீசஸ், அந்த ப்ராடக்ட் that we consulted on is called Appian, APPIAN. Whoever knows about ServiceNow or Salesforce or Pegasystems, so it competes with that. Appian is a product that competes in that space, and I started my life there. So I did about 7 years of work there, then I started Uram. So on the product, India la yarume customer illa. Ippada there's one customer or 1.5 years ago. So obviously my market is global. I have no business in India, and me trying to take that product and selling it in India is also not a logical option, because the cost of the product was prohibitive for the Indian market. So na bayangara veerappa ennoda desapatra pottu இந்தியாவில் விற்பேன், இந்தியாவில் நான் ஆப்பியனை கொண்டு வரேன், பாயிண்ட் இல்லை, பிஸ்னஸ் இருக்காது. தேசப்பற்று இருக்கும், நம்ம ஏதோ நாட்டுக்காக அது வேறு ஏதோ பண்ணிட்டு போகலாம், நாட்டுக்கு டேக்ஸ் கட்டலாம், என்ன வேணால் பண்ணலாம். பட் அந்த ப்ராடக்ட்டுக்கு இந்தியாவில் மார்க்கெட் இல்லை. ஸோ குளோபலோ லோக்கலோ லாஜிக் இருக்கணும், நம்ம என்ன பண்ணுறோம், எதுக்கு பண்ணுறோம். ஸோ தட் இஸ் மை why when I did Uram. Next is define what global means to you. இப்போ நீங்கள் குளோபல் அப்படின்னீங்கன்னா, லைக் இஸ் இட் ஈவன், இப்போ நீங்கள் தமிழ்நாட்டில் மட்டும் இருக்கீங்க, going to Maharashtra is also probably global for you, right? Because you're taking your product outside of your comfort zone, taking it outside of where your product is required. What is global? Is it the Asian market? Is it the Middle East market? Is it the US market? Adula enna? Adula, are you going to sell to healthcare? Adula, are you going to send to financial services? Financial services panna poringina, adula enna? Is it banks? Is it fintechs? Is it fund houses? Yaru? Define that very, very, very clearly. That helped me. So again, I'll go back to my previous example, and I'm following the same principles for my current company. Current company, again, I'll have to be honest here, I haven't scaled global yet for my current company. Okay, so I'm applying these principles, and I'm actually sharing what I'm doing for my current company with all of you based on my past experience. I'm literally sharing experiences here. So you have to define what global means to you, and enna vertical, enna edu ellame neenga akkuvera aanivera unga mind la oru clarity irukanum. Irundaduna, as the previous panel talked about, technology and all is a byproduct, right? I mean, then you can define what the technology needs to be, then you define where you need to host. Adellame it will follow. Next, write down your strengths. Extremely important. Neenga ஏன் பண்ணுறோன்றதை ரெடி பண்ணிட்டீங்க, எங்கே பண்ணணுன்றதை ரெடி பண்ணிட்டீங்க, நம்மால் முடியுமா? இது ஒரு இந்த இமோஷ்னல் கேள்வி இல்லை, அவன் பண்ணுறான் நான் அந்த மாதிரி don't. We're all entrepreneurs. A lot of you are entrepreneurs here. A lot of you are leaders in your company. The fact that you're spending your Thursday today or Friday, today's Thursday, you're spending that day today here means that you care for yourself, means that you care for your life, means that you want to make a difference. So it's fundamental that you care. Adanala, I'm not talking about that strength, but you have your native strength. Communication could be your strength, product development could be your strength, consulting could be your strength, marketing could be your strength. What is your strength? That you have to know. You have to be very clear on what that strength is for you. There was an example given. I was in a talk by Paddy Upton, India, a mental conditioning coach, and he shared a very beautiful example. Cricket, some of you follow. Virender Sehwag, there was a batsman. He's still there. He doesn't play anymore. So he scored a 300 in a test against, I think, South Africa. And Virender Sehwag, obviously the strength he has is he hits every ball for a boundary. That's what he's known for. He just is aggressive. Apparently, he was told by the coach, Gary Kirsten was the coach, Paddy Upton was the mental conditioning coach, that Sehwag, your strengths are great, but your weakness is when the ball is pitched short. Anga pattu ball un kannu kitta varumbodhu nee ball ipdi thooki adipa and the deep point or whatever that is called, fine leg or deep point, anga nikkiravan una catch pidichiruvan. South Africa will try to bowl there always, and what they did after that was great. They told Sehwag, don't try to practice that and make your weakness a strength. They said, ignore the balls. Yes, it is against what you normally do. You focus on your strengths. Full length வருது, அங்கே வருது, இங்கே வருது, அதெல்லாம் நீ தூக்கி அடி. இங்கே வரதை மட்டும் உற்று. அதை நீ ஸ்ட்ரென்த்தாக மாற்ற ட்ரை பண்ணாத. That match he scored 300 plus at the same pace, like he probably scored it in a single day or something. So focus on your strengths, extremely important. Write down what your strengths are, right? And for me, I knew my strengths. என்னோட strength என்னவா இருந்தது? I came from the Appian company. அந்த கம்பெனியில் நான் வேலை பண்ணேன். So my contacts were my strength. That was one of my fundamental strengths. Yes, I knew the product inside out. I can train people, culture, கலாச்சாரம், அதெல்லாம் okay. But my main strength was எனக்கு அந்த கம்பெனி விற்கிற சேல்ஸ் பீப்புளில் 2 பேர் தெரியும். That was the key strength. You have to identify what those strengths are for you. Next is understand the lay of the land. இது வந்து தனுஷோட ஒரு படம். அந்த இது ஞாபகம் இல்லை, படம் பேர் டக்கு ஞாபகம் இல்லை. மேபி சம் ஆஃப் யூ கேன் ரிமெம்பர். ஹி வில் சே, தனுஷ் அந்த ஜெனிலியா கிட்ட சொல்வார், நமக்கு இங்கிலீஷ் தெரிஞ்சால் மட்டும் போகாது, பேசுகிறவனுக்கு இங்கிலீஷ் தெரியணும் அப்படின்வார். என்ன படம் அது? உத்தமபுத்திரன். தேங்க்யூ, உத்தமபுத்திரன். அதே மாதிரி தான் நம்ம ஒரு இடத்துல வந்து நம்ம போய் விற்கலாம், நமக்கு அங்கே ஸ்ட்ரென்த் இருக்குது, அங்கே நம்ம ஒய் எல்லாமே ஃபிட் ஆகுது, அதெல்லாம் ஓகே. அங்கே அது தேவையா? அங்கே அந்த காம்படிஷன் யார்? அங்கே ப்ராடக்ட் நிஜமாகவே விற்குமா? அங்கே இப்போ ஃபார் எக்ஸாம்பிள் சவுதியில் போகும்போது தெர் இஸ் அ கல்ச்சுரல் ஷாக். இப்போது உரமில் வந்து வி நெவர் ஹேட் ஈவன் Workhall, we never look at male, female, ability, disability. Given a work, can you do? Coding is the work. You should be able to write code. Either you write it using audio, you write it using, it doesn't matter whether you're able to run faster. Who cares, right? So in Uram we had, I think 50-60% of our staff were female members. Once I went to Saudi, I realized that if a woman has to travel, not now, this was about 8 years ago. Now obviously Prince is changing a lot of rules. I don't know the current rules. But if you are a female, then you have to travel with either your family member, which you have to prove the relationship, or your spouse. You have to have a male member travel with you. So which means 60% of my staff can't work on Saudi projects which will require travel. So you still have to know the lay of the land. Anga enna rule irukku, right? So that is also very important for you if you decide you want to go global. After you worked on your strength, after you know what and why you need to do, talk about the lay of the land. Next is probably, this is the most important, understand the competition. I'm not a big believer of competition is doing this, namma idu pannano. Honestly, to each his own. It doesn't really matter what somebody else does. Of course, it's nice to be aware of what other people are doing, but you don't have to really run somebody else's race. In fact, Thiru sir said, like, if more people, become like her, of course that's a great inspiration, but you can also chart your own course and be bigger and greater and whatever you want to be also, because each person is different. Everybody's aspirations are different, everybody's circumstances are different, where we come up in life is different, where our first job is. My first job was at Appian, and it's a funny story. I was their employee, I was their partner, I'm their competitor. My life revolves around a small circle, right? I literally am inside that circle. So it depends on a lot of factors in environment. So you can't compare you with somebody else and say I want to do that. So comparing with the competition, not important. But ஒரு ஊரில் எந்த காம்படிஷனுமே இல்லை அப்படின்னா நம்ம மட்டும் அங்கே போகிறோன்னா யோசிக்கணும். இது சாமி படத்தில் வரும். விக்ரம் ஓடுவான், பின்னாடியே 10 குண்டாஸ் ஓடுவாங்க. அவர் இப்படியே நைஸாக ஸ்டைலில் வெக்கோல் அப்படி உட்காந்து கால் மேலே காலை போட்டு மோளம் அடித்து, ஏன்டா ஒருத்தன் துப்பாக்கி வச்சு ஓடுறானே, ஏன் ஓடுறான், எதுக்கு ஓடுறான்னு யோசிக்க மாட்டிங்களான்னு வாரு. சேம் திங். ஒரு ஊரில் எவனுமே இல்லை, அங்கே போய் நம்ம மட்டும் பிஸ்னஸ் பண்ணுறோம், நம்ம தான் கிரேட்டுன்னா யோசிக்கணும். இருக்கலாம், மேபி உங்கள் ப்ராடக்ட்டுக்கு அங்கே இப்போ அந்த கண்ட்ரியில் ஒரு புது லா வந்திருக்கலாம், மேபி அதனால் அந்த ஃபின்டெக் ப்ராடக்ட்டுக்கு அங்கே டிமாண்ட் இருக்கலாம். பட் அண்டர்ஸ்டாண்ட் த காம்படிஷன் as well. Is there a competition there already, or is there nobody there? All right, so that's something that we did. And I'll tell you this story. We did, again, this is a Middle East thing. By the way, my business, when I sold the company, we had 55-60% of the business from the US. We had 15% from Middle East, probably 10-15% from Australia, New Zealand, probably 5%, 8% from Europe, and the remaining South Africa, Asia, adhalam put together. So we were kind of distributed, and we slowly grew. Like we did take the business truly global, and we did close an India deal as well. So we did come back to India as well. So Saudi, when we did our projects, there was nobody, there was no competition. That to me was my strength. And I said, okay, I know this is going to be a tough market, and I know there's nobody here, but if I go in, this is for Appian, and the product and the title, where yarume anga service pannala. If I go in here, if I do really well, the sales guy who sold the account, who's not my sales guy, who's the product sales guy, is probably going to be friends with me because I made his project a success. He will probably refer me more, and I can have a domination in this area, which will build my brand. You asked a question earlier, ma'am, in terms of how do you... So we did that. We were not in the US. We started in Saudi because we got one lucky break, right? And then we converted that to a strategy. 2018, we moved out of it. I said, look, you know what? Now I'm everywhere. I don't need to be in this market anymore. Let competition come in. Let them come here. I don't mind this market. I don't mind losing this market now. We said no to a couple of projects. Right? Because at that point, margins were important. So the decision was different. I'm not going to give my product at such a low price anymore just to be dominant in that market. So you take different decisions based on circumstances. Right? So that's what we did. So that was understanding the competition and the lay of land. Probably the most important. And this should go in with your strength. Understand the culture. Simple. Again, I'm giving a lot of Middle East examples. Not sure why. India, but India we were very diverse, so it doesn't apply. But when there is Ramzan, people fast, and literally the whole country is fasting. UAE, everybody is fasting. UAE is a little bit more diverse than probably a Saudi. The customer might still say that, look, ninga saapidunga paravala, go in the pantry, don't make sure you eat and all. But you need to be careful. You need to be sensitive of the culture of the country. You can't openly go eat when people are praying and fasting. Go back to your room, eat inside, close the doors, eat inside. It's not about personal. Anga poitu namba vandu India la na ipdi pannuven. No, it's that country, it's that lay of land. Understand the culture. US la, India la, a lot of people are doing this. When you are in the lift, you always hold the lift and say after you, and the person leaves. So these kind of soft things matter. When you go to another country and interact with the customers there, if you become part of the culture, it helps you get the visibility, it helps you scale, it helps you get the acceptance. See, all said and done, brown skin, and I'm sorry if I offend any race, type, religion and all of that, I'm just being transparent. Brown skin does have a perception outside. I started Vuram primarily because one Australian, very good friend of mine, he said, Venki, Indians are all good people, but they're code monkeys. I was like, what the hell, how do you call monkeys? Now Trump is putting different videos of Aduvere. But I got offended. I was like, what do you mean? And my email ID, first email ID is venkiisanindian@yahoo.com. And the email, and Orkutnu ஒன்று இருந்தது அப்போ அதில் வந்து I'll be the president of Indiaன்னு எழுதுவேன் நான் டிஸ்கிரிப்ஷனில். அந்த மாதிரி இந்தியா நாட்டுப்பற்று இருக்கிறவங்க கிட்ட போயிட்டு Indians are code monkeysன்னு உடனே I got offended. And then he said, Venki, you guys say yes to everything. You guys nod your heads for everything. You don't know how to say no. You have hierarchy. Then I got a chance to work with a very large SI, and I realized that, half of what he said is actually true. So I started the company primarily at Vuram to change the way the world sees Indian services industry. So you have to understand what is the culture of the country you're working with. That's very, very, very critical. Quick check. Lunch was supposed to be at 1 o'clock. It's 1:10 now. யாரெல்லாம் பயங்கர பசியில் நிறுத்துறா அப்படின்ற மாதிரி யார் இருக்கீங்க? Nobody? Okay, all right. Just want to be practical. Yeah, பாவம் குமார் சார், he's going to talk after lunch. அது அவருக்கு tough job. எந்த கொஞ்சம் okay, easy. Before lunch is generally easy, but people get impatient. All right. So understand the culture. And by the way, in case you're hungry, sir, lunch இருக்குமா இப்போ போனா? இருக்காது. Okay, அப்போ பாவம் வேறு வழி இல்லை. Okay. So understand the culture is very important. All right. இதெல்லாம் பண்ணிட்டு now revisit the first things you said. இப்போவும் நம்ம ஸ்ட்ரென்த்து தானா, இல்லை காம்படிஷனை பார்த்து, லே ஆஃப் த லேண்டை பார்த்து, கல்ச்சரை பார்த்து நம்மக்கிட்ட வீக்னஸ் இருக்கா? சப்போஸ் language is important. Now I can now decide that I want to go to Eastern Europe. Nobody has dominated that market. Indian services. I'm guessing a lot of you don't have Eastern European business here. We exclude you, ma'am. You are global. Right? Some of you may not have. There's a reason for it. You need to know Slovenian, Slovakian, Slovenian. You need to know those languages to actually do business there. Maybe German at least, right? So, but it's still a good market if your strength is, I have worked in Mercedes and I have German people and he's ready to work with me. He liked me and he's ready to work with me. Then that becomes your strength, right? So just imagine, convert every strength of yours and re-evaluate if still your strengths are strength and you still feel strongly about the why. நான் ஏன் இது பண்ணணும்னு நீங்கள் முதல்ல யோசிச்சிங்களே, இதெல்லாம் பண்ணதுக்கு அப்புறமும் இந்த why இன்னும் why-ஆ இருக்கா? So think about that. If it is true, then let's get into the second part of the story. துரந்தர் பார்த்தீங்களா? சில பேர், கொஞ்சம் பேர் அதில் இந்த பார்ட் 1 பார்ட் 2 வந்தது, நல்லா இருந்தது. அதனால் நானும் அதை ட்ரை பண்ணலான்ட்டு போட்டேன், வேறு எதுவும் இல்லை. அதனால தான் இந்த பார்ட் 1 பார்ட் 2. ஸோ ஃபஸ்ட்டு எம்ஜிஆர் சொன்ன ஏன் என்ற கேள்வியை பார்த்தாச்சு. இப்போ எப்படி, எப்படி பண்ணலாம் இதை, அதை ஐம் கோன் டு டாக் அபவுட் நவ். எப்படிக்கு அந்த பார்ட்டும் எனக்கு தோணலை, ஸோ அதனால் அதுக்கு எதுவும் இது இல்லை. ஆல்ரைட். See, finding business outside of India or outside of your comfort zone is hard. Okay, it's a fact. This is where your network comes into picture. Look at your LinkedIn, look at your social contacts. See if in that market that you have identified, if there is a friend of yours, if there is an alumni of yours, if there is a family of yours, if there is anybody. Talk to them, ask them for favors. It's totally okay. Be shameless about it, ask for favors. அது அந்த கான்டாக்ட் மூலமாக கிடைக்கிற அந்த ஃபஸ்ட்டு பிஸ்னஸ் தான் ஜென்ரலாக ஒர்க் அவுட் ஆகும். நீங்கள் ஈவெண்ட்டில் போய் உங்கள் ப்ராடக்டை விற்று அதுக்கு ஒரு அவேர்னஸை க்ரியேட் பண்ணி, இட் இஸ் அ லிட்டில் ட்ரிக்கி. Ma'am said, Zoho is 30 years. I've been tracking Zoho for quite some time now. First, you will never see Zoho's ads on a cricket stadium or on the airports or on the, the buses. You'll never see it 10 years ago. Even 8 years ago, you'll never see it. After a certain point of inflection, when they probably conquered the South African market and a little bit of the African market, they said, now it's time for me to go global. So they probably also had a strategy. They didn't decide like, I'm going to go all over the world, I'm going to spend 100. They had cash. They don't have to go public. They have enough cash to keep spending on marketing and all of that. Now they realize, look, there's bigger opportunity here. Zoho can be a lot bigger and contribute to the world a lot more. So now they are doing those things, right? So, but they also started with probably that contact. எங்கேருந்து வரும்? உங்கள் இந்தியா ரெஃபரன்சஸ்லேருந்தே வரும். எனக்கு இன்றைக்கி ஒர்க்ஹாலில் இருக்கிற 25 கஸ்டமருமே ஒருத்தர் மூலமாக இன்னொருத்தர் மூலமாக இன்னொருத்தர் தான். அவங்க ஒரு இடத்துல இன்னொரு இடம் போவாங்க. இப்போ நாங்கள் ஒரு நான் ப்ராஃபிட்டுக்கு பண்ணுறோம். அந்த நான் ப்ராஃபிட்டில் இருக்கிற டோனர்ஸ்க்கெல்லாம் ஒர்க்ஹால் யூஸ் பண்ணுறாங்க. இன்றைக்கி மத்தியானம், இப்போ நான் லேப்டாப் வச்சு பண்ணிகிட்டு இருந்தேன், அதை இப்போ 1 மணிக்கு ஒரு மீட்டிங் ஓடிட்டுருக்கு, இன்னொரு நான் ப்ராஃபிட் கூட இந்தியாவில். Because இங்கே யூஸ் பண்ணவர் எனக்கும் அந்த மாதிரி பண்ணித்தா. ஸோ the word spread. So obviously there's one slide here which talks about quality that is non-negotiable, but contacts is extremely important. Alright, so that's the first way. If I were to go global, I would definitely mind this, and because of my previous work, this is what I'm now doing as well. Right, I'm trying to get my contacts. Next is, you don't have to do this now. Okay, when you decide to go global, I would not immediately hire. Okay, because it's a capital, especially if you're looking at the US market, or if you're looking at the European market, you're looking at $150,000, $200,000, right? That's whatever number of lakhs or crores it is. That's a heavy investment for a small growing startup, MSME, right? But you still need to hire somebody, and that is where what I did was I used the wonderful people that we hired and moved one of them to each of these countries. So all my 7 different countries was run by 7 different people who worked with me in India. Right? One, they know the product or the service, they know the culture of the company, and they're aspirational, and you show the people of your company the trust and respect. As much as it might be interesting, somebody outside might come and say, especially your customer, right? Somebody who's been your customer, if they liked what you did, will come to you and say, I will run this company for you. I will take care of these operations. I have tried it. For me, it did not work. It tanked all the time. As a customer, they were excellent and they loved our service. அன்னைக்கு என்ன பண்ணுறோம், அன்னைக்கு இந்தியாவில் இருக்கோமா இல்லையா பார்க்குறதே கிடையாது. கண்டிப்பாக வரேன். அதுக்கப்புறம் தான் நம்ம வீட்டுக்கு வந்ததுக்கப்புறம் தான் யோசிப்போம். அதே மாதிரி தான் ஒருத்தன் வேலை வேணும், உனக்கு பயங்கர குஷியாயிருவோம். ஆஹா, என்னை நம்பி ஒருத்தன் எனக்கு யூஎஸில் சேர்றான்னு சொல்கிறவுமே அவனுக்கு உடனே கண்டிப்பாக அப்படின்றவோம். அதுக்கப்புறம் தான் இப்போ எப்படி நோ சொல்கிறது, we may even promise 8% company கொடுத்துட்றான் உனக்குன்னு. அப்புறம் தான் யோசிப்போம் அவனுக்கு 8 கொடுத்தா நமக்கு எவ்வளோ மிச்சம் இருக்கும். இதெல்லாம் அப்புறம் தான் யோசிப்போம். We have to be very careful. Alright? So I would not hire. And look, if you're hiring a sales guy from another country, he's a sales guy. He knows how to sell. I've gone through that a few times where I've hired a sales guy. After the call, I'm so impressed. And then I realized, wait, he's a sales guy. He's actually sold himself really well. Doesn't mean he'll sell the product too. Always use your people first if possible. Then, hire. Right? And be very honest. Like, change the... I have learned to start saying no. I have learned to not offering the sun and the moon to get somebody. I've learned the moment I reduce my desperation, my decision making improves. Doesn't matter what situation I'm in. If the desperation reduces, the clarity of thought generally has increased. All right? So that's that. This, I have some techniques that we did, which I'll share here. Marketing is expensive. Okay, we all know that, like, for LinkedIn, if you have to give an ad on LinkedIn, it's crazy cost. If it's Google, it's crazy cost. Now you have to probably pay the LLMs as well. As much as you write content, you probably have to pay the LLMs in the future for your names to show up on, what is the best low-code product. You have to probably spend a lot. Events are not easy. If you have to be at a Gartner event, it's $250,000 just to have a sponsorship at the Orlando annual event at the Gartner. Not easy. $250,000 is not a joke. So then how do you build the brand? How do you scale it, and how do you make people aware of it? So this again depends on the service you're providing. If you are providing a .NET service or a Java service, right? Look at the forums that support that. Like, there might be a forum where the Java developers are asking questions. How many people from your company are actively posting on that forum with your company logo as the icon? Very simple. Right? That's what we did. Appy and there was a community. We divided the company into 9-hour slots and said, in the 1 hour, in the Monday, 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock, நீங்க 2 பேர் எந்த கொஸ்டின் வேர்ல்டில் யார் கேட்டாலும் எங்கள் உரம்லேருந்து யாராவது ரெஸ்பாண்ட் பண்ணுவாங்க வித் த உரம் லோகோ. அந்த கம்யூனிட்டி யார் பார்த்தாலும் உரம் என்னடா இது எல்லாரும் ரெஸ்பாண்ட் பண்ணுறாங்க, எது கேட்டாலும் இவங்க பேராகவே இருக்குது. Enhance the community. So what we did was we created a lot of components and we created a lot of extensions, ICE and the extensions. We created a lot of extensions and posted it on the marketplace of that product for free. Let anybody use it. ஏன்னா அதை யூஸ் பண்ணாங்கன்னா சர்வீஸ் உங்ககிட்ட தான் வரும். ஏன்னா நீங்கள் தான் அதை பண்ணியிருக்கீங்க. ஸோ contribute to the community. Right? So once you identify what your market is, these kind of techniques help you. When you're going global, one thing that has helped us is associations. There are a lot of associations locally. In the SIDA Mari, there are many associations. Participate in those associations in those countries that you are present. Again, US is a big geography. I would not take US as a market. I would divide US into micro markets and go inside those micro markets, right? So like, for example, I never had more than 2 customers on the West Coast. Simple logic. My strength, I had a principle. நான் பண்ணாத வேலையை என் டீமை நான் பண்ண சொல்ல மாட்டேன். So I don't want to do night shifts. So I didn't want to do night shifts in the company. So I'll only work on the East Coast because அங்கே தான் 2.5 hours at least நமக்கு கிடைக்கும். West Coast, I said, okay, I'll open an office in Mexico. அது மூலமா we'll service West Coast, not from India. I don't want anybody working beyond 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock maximum. Right? So those kind of things are there. Then be part of the local community. அங்கே சேரிட்டிஸ் நடக்கும். அங்கே நீங்கள் ஒரு நார்த் கேரோலினாவில் இருக்கீங்க, ராலேயில் இருக்கீங்க, டரமில் இருக்கீங்க, வர்ஜீனியாவில் இருக்கீங்கன்னா அங்கே ஏதாவது ஒரு ஈவெண்ட் இருக்கும். நீங்கள் ஃபைனான்ஷியல் சர்வீசஸ்னால் அந்த உங்களோட கிளையண்ட் ஏதாவது ஒரு சேரிட்டிக்கு சப்போர்ட் பண்ணுவாங்க. You also spend $2,000, $3,000. ஒரு கால்ஃப் விளையாடுறாங்கன்னா அந்த ஒரு few rounds of balls ஸ்பான்சர் பண்ணுங்கள். Participate, show genuine interest. Again, they'll invite you, right? Because they'll invite you to those events. தயவு செஞ்சு அங்கே போய் வித்துறாதீங்க உங்கள் ப்ராடக்டை. Just build relationships. Just get your brand out there. Never sell your product, right? People will come to you if I'll show that in the next slide. All right. So these are some things we did and it really helped us as well. And I'm not going to talk about this. If you decide to go global, you can't fail. Like whatever the previous panelists said, and you just can't fail. You can't have a product that doesn't work, or you can't have services. Yes, we're all humans, mistakes happen. If it happens, own up to it. This is what we did as well. We owned up to it. We immediately tell the customer, production, this has happened, we're really sorry, and do all the effort. If you as the CEO have to fly out there, be with the customer, do that. Take the responsibility. Don't try to be a hero trying to solve it behind the scenes and covering it up. Oh, no, if you know a problem, communicate. Be honest, it gets respected. The other person also, a simple thing, right? ஒரு குழந்தை இருக்கு, இந்த கிளாஸை உடைச்சிருச்சு, உடைச்ச உடனே உங்ககிட்ட வந்து, ஐயோ சாரிம்மா நான் உடைச்சிட்டேன், இனிமேல் பண்ண மாட்டேன்னா திட்டவா போகிறோம். அதுவே அதை உடச்சிட்டு மேலே ஒரு பிளாங்கெட்டை போட்டு போயிடுச்சுன்னா அடி கூப்பிட்டு வெளுத்துற மாட்டோம், ஏன் சொல்லாமல் பண்ண அது இதுன்னு. சிம்பிள். The same logic applies to us in business as well. All right? But quality, it's non-negotiable. Next thing, be very close to the customer. This is what I did. When I was at Vuram also, when we ran the company, I'll travel every month. Every 3 months I was in US. Every 2 months I'll be in Saudi. Every 2 months I'll be in Australia or Europe. Every month I'll be in Saudi. Because, 1 flight, 1.5 flight and 2 long flights. Simple logic. I'll travel, meet with the customers. And every time I meet with the customer, I don't talk about, my service, what I do. No, I'll just talk about their family. I'll talk about how's life, India politics, US politics, Saudi, Prince Vararu, adu idu, all of that stuff, right? And take them to nice places. Do not talk about work. I did not. This is what I did. I'm, like, as I said, I'm sharing experiences here. All right. Fill in the blanks. Now that I've said everything, sales is not about your product. It is about relationships, trust. Thank you. Yes, trust. Relationships and trust. I would say trust is more important. Simple. You go to a TV shop, TV. You like the guy who is selling it. Sir, நீங்க வாங்குங்க சார், எதானாலும் நான் உங்களுக்கு ரீப்ளேஸ் பண்ணி தரேன், நான் இங்கே வேலையை விட்டு போகிறது இல்லை. அவன் என்ன சொன்னான், okay, we may buy it. It's not that we like the LG. None of us are associated to LG, Samsung, Onida, whatever, Dynora, any TV brand. None of us care. We just want the best TV. If something happens, we need to know there's a backup. It's based on trust. This is extremely important. The customer needs to know that they can trust you. And you have to, through various channels, you can do that. And that's all pretty much. In the end, be authentic and be proud of what you do. You can't be somebody else. I'll give you again another story here, another example. When we went to the events in the US, of course, it's for business formals, but we went in t-shirts and jibbas at some point. Like Zoho is known for that, what Mr. Vembu does. But we also did that in a way, in what ways we can. The gifts that we did, usually the gifts are, flasks and chargers and all of that. We always take items from various states of India. ராஜஸ்தான்லேருந்து அந்த தொங்குறது, இல்லாட்டி ஒரு யானை ஸ்டாச்சு, பென் ஸ்டாண்ட். இன்னி வரைக்கும் my customers have that on their table and they keep, every time I say, Venki, I still have that thing that you gave. So be authentic, be proud of who you are. We represent a certain thing. We can't change ourselves for the other people. We just need to know what the other person's culture is. We need to be respectful of it. And when we are there, we can live that culture, but it doesn't mean we have to be different person altogether. So, and be proud about what you do and what value and differences you do. That's what we also did in the previous company and in the current company. And with that, thank you. My contact details are there in case anybody needs it. Thank you.